Get your red string and push pins because it's time to connect the dots. Dots that span from the early 80s until today, and that relate to an outsourced FOIA-exempt UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. The information I'm about to present to you comes from the recently released journals from the OG UFO researcher himself, Jacques Vallee. This is the 5th volume of his journals and it's titled Forbidden Science. But I learned about this information from the cool uncle of ufology, Richard Dolan, in his latest video. So make sure you go check it out. But I'm going to take it a step further than he did. But first we need to go back to the Wilson Davis notes that are purported to document the former director of the DIA's failed attempt to gain access to a hidden UFO program back in 1997. Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson, who was the J2 at the time, meets with the members of the watch committee that oversee the UFO program that the government has outsourced to civilian contractors. This is where Wilson learns that he's not the first government official to try to gain access to their UFO program. These gatekeepers inform Wilson that their cover was nearly blown when an audit investigation nearly led to them, which obviously wasn't supposed to happen. But after a nasty back and forth battle, the watch committee conceded to the pressure being applied by the auditor and briefed him about the program and gave him a tour. And based on Jacques Vallee's recently published journal, it is now suspected that that auditor was Charles Bouchier, former Comptroller General of the United States, who headed up the Government Accountability Office from 81 to 96. According to Vallee, around 84-85, Bouchier uncovered a bizarre special access program cover-up during a massive audit of classified projects which surely violated every classification, executive order, regulation, and congressional rule. A program that apparently had to do with an exotic, non-earthly vehicle. Bouchier was contemplating turning the program over to the Justice Department for prosecution, but a powerful person in DOD quenched it. This is when it's assumed that additional measures were put into place to ensure that the program's cover would not be blown in the future, and which would prevent people like Thomas Wilson from being able to access the program. Which is why the Watch Committee was happy to call Wilson's bluff when he threatened to report them to the SAP Oversight Committee in Washington, because they knew that they had friends in high places. And that brings us to today. I now suspect that whoever's writing the UAP-related language that Senator Gillibrand and others are pushing to have signed into law is fully aware of the success that Bouchier had in the past. And I suspect this because within the 31 pages of UAP-related legislation put forth on July 14, 2022, which was to be included in the Intelligence Authorization Act of 2023, Section 705 would require the current comptroller to conduct a far-reaching historical review of the U.S. intelligence agency's involvement in UAP dating back to 1947. But if this language had been signed into law, the comptroller wouldn't have even had to have left the GAO office suite to find evidence of a government-sponsored UFO reverse engineering program. The current comptroller would only have to find the records of his predecessor's successful attempt to get briefed about and a tour of the UFO program that he discovered in '85, as noted by Jacques Vallee. Unfortunately, the language that was signed into law as part of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023 places the responsibility of performing the historical review on the understaffed and underfunded AARO office. And although the Government Accountability Office is to perform an audit of their findings, I fear without the full weight of the comptroller behind the historical review, that cooperation across the entire government will be lacking at best. But go check out Richard Dolan's latest video and let me know if you think that the comptroller is the key to the government's UFO reverse engineering lock.